thought track. That's okay. I just want to get you into a powerful state of attracting what you want instead of revolving around the usual. I want you to think about your thoughts being energy. And as you think about what you want, your thoughts gain momentum. They go off into a direction of what you truly desire. So I want to start by reading The Power of Assumption by Neville Goddard, and this is coming from his book, The Power of Awareness. Neville wrote in Old English, pretty flowery language, so hopefully you can get something out of this. And when you study yourself, when you study the laws of attraction, you start to connect the dots and see how life has worked out by thinking. So the power of assumption. Man's chief delusion is his conviction that there are causes other than his own state of consciousness. All that befalls a man, all that is done by him, all that comes from him, happens as a result of his state of consciousness. A man's consciousness is all that he thinks and desires and loves, all that he believes is true and consents to. That is why a change of consciousness is necessary before you can change your outer world. Rain falls as a result of a change in the temperature in the higher regions of the atmosphere. So, in like manner, a change of circumstance happens as a result of a change in your state of consciousness. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. To be transformed, the whole basis of your thoughts must change. But your thoughts cannot change unless you have a new idea. For you think from your ideas. All transformation begins with an intense, burning desire to be transformed. The first step in the renewing of the mind is desire. You must want to be different before you can begin to change yourself. Then you must make your future dream a present fact. You do this by assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled. By desiring to be other than what you are, you can create an ideal of the person you want to be and assume that you are already that person. If this assumption is persisted in until it becomes your dominant feeling, the attainment of your ideal is inevitable. I remember studying this passage with Bob Proctor, and he would say, "What do you really want? What do you really, really want? Assume that you are that person." And then he would talk about this one sentence. If this assumption is persisted in until it becomes your dominant feeling, the attainment of your ideal is inevitable. And then he would say, what is the most important word in that sentence? And people would raise their hands and they would say, assumption. You have to assume that you already are the person that has the goal. You have to assume that your goal is possible. You have to assume that you're on the right path, it's coming to you. And you'd say, yeah, assumption is important. And someone else would raise their hand and say, persistence. You have to know what you want and you have to persist. You have to go after it. You have to persist. You have to have a burning desire no matter what. You have to keep going. You have to persist. He said, yes, persistence is incredibly important, because if you don't keep going, you don't know how close you were to reaching your goal. Other people would raise their hands and say, it's the dominant feeling. You have to practice positive thinking. You have to keep the focus on what you really want. And someone else would say, it's a worthy ideal, like what we study in lesson 1. You have to really, really want it. It has to be an ideal goal that is worthy of you. And someone else would say, it's inevitable. Isn't that wonderful that what you focus on grows and it inevitably is going to come to you? And he'd say, all of those words are very important. But the most important word in that sentence is if. You've got an ideal, worthy goal. You've decided on something that you really, really want. You have a burning desire. You practice being in harmony with it until it becomes your dominant feeling, and you become like a human magnet and you know it's yours. He said, if this assumption is persisted in until it becomes your dominant feeling, the attainment of your ideal is inevitable. And the reason that little word if is most important is most of us don't stay in the practice long enough. You think about what you want, you talk about what you want. You might do it for 5 minutes or 20 minutes in the morning, or study for half an hour, and then go out into the world and life takes you down. The outer circumstances take control, and then you go down the downward spiral of everything that's going wrong, everything that's reality, everything that is the current condition, the circumstances of life, what's bugging you, what's getting in the way. And you end up focusing on the challenges and the problems and what's getting in the way, instead of using your powerful mental faculties, using your thought energy, using your burning desire to assume the wish fulfilled. If this assumption is persisted in until it becomes your dominant feeling, the attainment of your ideal is inevitable. Neville Goddard says, the ideal you hope to achieve is always ready for an incarnation, but unless you yourself offer it human parentage, it is incapable of birth. Therefore, your attitude should be one in which, having desired to express a higher state, you alone accept the task of incarnating this new and greater value of yourself. In giving birth to your ideal, you must bear in mind that the methods of mental and spiritual knowledge are entirely different. This is a point that is truly understood by probably not more than one person in a million. You know a thing mentally by looking at it from the outside, by comparing it with other things, by analyzing it and defining it. You can only know a thing spiritually by becoming it. So think about what it is that you really want, what you truly desire. You can look at it from the outside. You can look at other people having it. You could say, oh, I really want that. I really, really, really love that. I know that's where I'm going. I set a goal and I am persisting and I will do that. But you can only really become it. You can only know it. You can only know a thing spiritually by becoming it. You must be the thing itself and not merely talk about it or look at it. Neville says, you must be like the moth in search of its idol, the flame, who, spurred with true desire, plunging at once into the sacred fire, folded its wings within till he became one color and one substance with the flame. He only knew the flame who in it burned, and only he could tell who ne'er to return, ne'er to tell returned. Well, this is some old English language, but Neville explains it as, just as the moth in his desire to know the flame was willing to destroy himself, so must you become a new person. Be willing to die to your present self. You must be conscious of being healthy if you are to know what health is. You must be conscious of being secure if you know what security is. So if a person wants more wealth in their life, they must be conscious of what wealth feels like. What is it like to have prosperity in every area of your life? If we're looking to become more financially secure, we don't want to talk about lack and limitation, and there's never enough money. There's not enough to go around. We don't want to be consciously aware of limitations. We want to be consciously aware of wealth. A wealthy person does not focus on, how am I going to pay the bill? How am I going to get out of debt? How am I going to buy something? A wealthy person just goes on creating more wealth and serving more people and looking at ways to help, ways to lift other people out of poverty. They don't focus on poverty, they focus on wealth and prosperity and being wealthy and helping other people. Therefore, to incarnate a new and greater value of yourself, you must assume that you already are what you want to be, and then live by faith in this assumption, which is not yet incarnate in the body of your life, in confidence that this new value or state of consciousness will become incarnated through your absolute fidelity to the assumption that you are that which you desire to be. That's what wholeness means. That's what integrity means. They mean submission of the whole self to the feeling of the wish fulfilled, in certainty that this new state of consciousness is the renewing of mind, which transforms. So if we study the law of perpetual transmutation of energy, we know that we are a spiritual entity with an intellect embodied in this physical body, this meat suit, this costume that we wear. But everything starts in the mind. You start to think, what would you really love? What would it be like to be healthy, to have a strong, healthy body, to feel great? there were times in your life that you were healthy and felt wonderful. What's it like to be skipping down the road, to be physically fit? What did that feel like? And as you focus on that, you start to notice where maybe some of your actions and habits are not in alignment with a strong, healthy physical body. When you then can see what you're doing to sabotage those results, you can start to practice being healthy. You might replace one habit of maybe drinking too much alcohol or drinking pop or not drinking or drinking too much coffee. You might replace that with several glasses of water during the day. You might recognize where you're sitting for hours at a time and set a timer on your watch to go for a walk. There are ways that you can see where your thinking and physical patterns are not in alignment with being healthy, and you can start to change some of that. Same with being wealthy. You can notice where you're panicking about money or you're comparing yourself to people who have wealth and feeling bad, feeling jealous, looking at your own lack. You can practice, if I had all the money that I want, if I was a multimillionaire, or if I didn't have to worry about money, what would I do? How would I change the way I'm living if all of a sudden I was really wealthy? Now, for some people, that means a few $100,000. For some people, it's billions of dollars. Of course, the more money you have, the more taxes you look at, the more people want a piece of you. So more money could mean more problems. But if you really want to be financially free, what would that look like? What does that mean to you? What would that look like if you were earning the kind of money that you really wanted? What kind of house would you be living in? Or maybe you'd have several homes. Maybe you would live 6 months in a hot climate and 6 months in the place that you are now. How much money would you give to your church or your favorite charity? Or would you build something, a school, a food bank, a legacy? What would you do if your income was 10 times what it is now? What would that new state of consciousness be? You wouldn't have to worry about money. So that means you've got a lot more time on your hands. You've got a lot more freedom to think about, what would you do with all that wealth? It's fun to imagine. It's fun to think about, because everything starts in the mind. And right now, it is in the spiritual form. It's in your imagination. Thinking about what you really want, what that would mean for your family, for your community, for the world at large. How would you change your world if your income was 10 times what it is? Neville Goddard says this is what wholeness means, what integrity means: assuming that you are that which you desire to be. submission to the whole self, to the feeling of the wish fulfilled, in certainty that that new state of consciousness is the renewing of mind that transforms. There is no order in nature corresponding to this willing submission of the self to the ideal beyond the self. You possess what the rest of nature does not possess. Imagination, the instrument by which you create your world. Your imagination is the instrument, the means whereby your redemption from slavery, sickness, poverty is affected. Imagination is the only redemptive power in the universe. However, your nature is such that it is optional to you whether you remain in your present concept of yourself or choose to become the instrument of your own redemption, imagining yourself as that which you want to be, and thereby satisfying your hunger and redeeming yourself. So if we start to use our imagination and get into the spirit of the wish fulfilled, what would it be like? The wealth is pouring into the bank account. We don't even know how much is there. We're just happily spending it, gifting beautiful things to our loved ones. What would you do first? What kind of trip would you take? Where would you live? How would you help maybe your siblings or your friends, maybe your neighborhood? And then money is flowing, so you don't have to worry about paying the bills. You don't have to worry about where the next dollar is coming from. The money is lavishly flowing in. What would you do for the world? What would you do for your world? How would you help those around you? As you start to get into the mindset of prosperity, really, I want you to really feel it. I want you to really think about no limits, like playing a game of Monopoly and you've got all the money. How are you helping your family, your friends, and what would you change in this world? Would you give to change the education system, the reserve system, the food bank? Would you pour money into educating those less fortunate so that they can look after themselves and have a purposeful life? What I want for myself, I want for others. I want everyone to live a life of health, wealth, love, prosperity in every area of their life. I want you to get so deep into your imagination of what you would love to do. You're healthy, you're wealthy, you're feeling fantastic. What changes would you make in your life? So as you get into the spirit of the wish fulfilled, what do I really want? What would it feel like if there were no limits and I could truly be or do or have anything, everything that I want? What would my life look like? And then start to write it down. I don't want you to use negative words like, I would get rid of this, I would fight this, I would go against that, I would finally pay off my debt. I want you to stay in the positive energy of the wish fulfilled and write your goal as if it's here now. How grateful would you be? How happy would you be? The wish has been fulfilled. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Assume that the money is in the bank. You don't have to worry. You're ecstatic. You're eagerly anticipating what you're going to do with it. So you can start by writing, I am so happy and grateful now that. And in the present tense, the wish has been fulfilled. You're already healthy and prosperous. How does that feel? What did you spend the money on? I am so happy and grateful now that. And write it out as if you're writing in a diary. It's already a done deal. Write it down and practice feeling that. Maybe write it on a goal card and carry it with you, or put a sticky note up. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I want. This is my new life. This is where I'm going. Write it out as a destination, and you're already there. I am so happy and grateful now that. It's really important to get into the feeling. Take what's in the spiritual form in your imagination, plant it in your heart. Feel what it's like to be there, and then put it down on paper. As you write it out, you start to get ideas, you start to think of opportunities, and instead of talking yourself out of it, see what you can do that would change your life. What action could you take that would get you a different result? Spend a few minutes writing. Create a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me in this morning mindfulness practice. I'll see you back here tomorrow morning at 7. Thank you.